So, with two episodes Welcome to Derry left, I thought I would go back and watch the chapter one and chapter two of it. Nothing's changed as far as my thoughts about these films, really, in terms of entertainment. I think they're both good, despite, the chapter two following the book, which the second half of the book was I felt the weakest part with the adults, and it's still the same in chapter two of the movie here. Um, Much like in the miniseries in the 90s, it had the same problem where that back end with the adults unfortunately didn't um, have the climax sucked. Just put it plain and simple. Yeah, I think that out of everything that they could have changed, I think that would have been one of the things. Um, Especially with chapter two, and I know I'm talking negative about it, but really these two films are still good to watch. All the actors are great. Skarsgård as Pennywise is fantastic, but the ending really has is a big letdown. I think to me anyway. And I don't want to go into spoilers if you haven't seen these two. I mean, watch it and form your own opinion, of course. There's still lots of entertaining moments here, lots of scary bits and everything. But what I wanted to talk about and kind of like sort of reviewing these two films, re-reviewing, I should say, because I did do a review of these long time ago, but obviously they're not up on my channel anymore. But kind of like connecting them with the Welcome to Derry there. I mean, the town is still captured there, the eeriness of the town, the fact that and this is not really spoiler, but there's a different mood, with the townsfolk. It feels like the kids are kind of isolated in a way, where they're lively and everything, while the adults seem to be, you know, the kind of mundane or crazy or um, not really seeing what's going on with the town with missing kids, and there's such a change from the current 60s season we've gotten so far, where for those that have been watching it, like it's like you got the army storyline going on there, and then you have those kids storyline going on there, and I think the final two episodes, whatever happens there, I think will lead up to why these two movies, well, especially the first chapter, the town feels almost dead, almost lifeless as far as the people are kind of like, the adults go. I don't know, that's just the impressions I get because I believe that the Pennywise has such a stronghold on this town, his playground, that he keeps the adults kind of silent while he hunts, you know. Because the kids know better, they're lively, they don't know what's going on, and that's kind of the trap that Pennywise, I guess, is putting out there. I don't know, it's just thoughts in my head. Let me know in the comments what you think. Chapter two with the adults there, again, a great cast and everything, and they kind of have to, um, rediscover that horror that's chasing them, that's calling them back to the town in a sense. Um, I think that again with the leading up to the climax, like before that, is fantastic. Um, Wish there was a way that it would stop going on a black screen when I'm recording. Right. Yeah, yeah. You just got to deal with it. Um, it's because I'm not like moving the mouse and it times out and it's annoying. Um, yeah, so leading up to the climax is fantastic, and then the climactic part in it and the back end of the movie is kind of like my issue with chapter two, much like the book. But I think also chapter two, with the events that are happening in the first season, my eye is watering. Thanks, buddy. um, there are elements there that connect a little bit to the first season we got going on with Welcome to Derry, specifically with the one character. If you've been watching the show, um, that I'm not going to spoil events or details here because I recommend you watch Welcome to Derry, especially if you've liked these two films. But I think that um, there's a particular scene with this particular character that happens, and I like the miniseries version of that sequence better in the 90s than I do the new version. And the reason I say that is because the way it's shot and the way it's done is so much better than the chapter 2 version. Okay. The mood, I know like it could be dated, the miniseries in the 90s, the way they did it, but I felt that it was creepier shot for shot. I find that the chapter 2 version of this particular scene I'm talking about, and again, I don't want to mention spoilers, all say is that this sequence takes place in a house with the Beverly character. And when you get to that part, you'll know what I mean. I just feel that sequence in chapter 2 is cheap, like a cheap jump scare. Um, and it was so more effective in the miniseries in the 90s. Uh, um, I think that comparing the 90s miniseries to these two movies, obviously it's a TV miniseries, so they couldn't do the full gore and all certain sequences they couldn't do, which is fair. But it was good enough where they got a lot of it still had the creepiness to it. There's thinking about there's certain sequences in the 90s miniseries that were creepy more so than these new ones, but these new ones still have their own kind of versions of those sequences as well. So both are really cool. I think Tim Curry as Pennywise in the miniseries in the 90s was perfect for the role. He brings out that Pennywise. It's obviously not as big and practical effects or CG as these two new It films, but it was good enough for the time. It was good enough for the TV portion of it. I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but it's just my thoughts and kind of like comparing the different versions. Because I never really discussed that in my previous review of these two new films. But like as a connection to the season one, Welcome to Derry, I think chapter two is a little bit more connected to it than chapter one. Although chapter one, there are locations and perhaps sequences that you go, oh, okay, that's so on and so forth. Um, I really love how Welcome to Derry goes my blank screen again. I have to move the mouse. I have to move the mouse. Move the mouse. Um, I do think that the Welcome to Derry actually enhances Chapter One and Chapter Two. These new ones. The lore is so fantastic in Welcome to Derry that it's enhances it so well. Enhances Pennywise. Enhances the town. Enhances the characters, both in the films and in season one. I think all the actors do a fantastic job. It's not just some cheap thrill horror film, um, where you have, of course, the main antagonist being the focus. I love the fact that every character is a focus. I think that's one thing that modern horror these days lacks, where you have a writing team that's too focused on the killer guy or monster, forgetting all the other characters. I hate to say it and bring it up, but Terrifier is one of those things. Um, you can love Terrifier, cool for you, but the biggest issue I find with those films is, yes, it's gore fest, yes, it's this and that, but I find the story itself and kind of like it is weird, right? Fair enough, it's weird, but I feel that like the Terrifier films are more focused on the demon, the Art the Clown character, whereas I feel nothing for everyone else. And there's that problem. Uh, where here in the It thing, and I know Terrifier is an entirely different type of horror, but I'm just trying to compare my thoughts with why I think the It movies and the TV show are a good representation of horror itself, because you have everybody culminating as a good um, cast that brings this lore and brings this world together. And the writing is right there and it's great. Even my nitpicks with chapter 2, there's still cool stuff in there. Okay? Um I think there's great future for season 2 of Welcome to Derry, especially with possible things that they're setting up within the Welcome to Derry TV show, and I'm really looking forward to season 2 now. I know we haven't episode 7 and 8 haven't come out yet as of this video, but I'm looking forward to the climactic finish, and I expect it to be actually very intense. But we'll have to see. And really interested to see what they do with the Halloran character, the character that can he has like the mind stuff, the shining, as it were. Um, and we all know pretty much that Pennywise keeps going because the TV show takes place in the 60s and the two movies here take place in the 80s. So obviously, Pennywise lives on. Whether or not he'll be stopped, that's the other thing, right? He can be stopped. We'll see how they wrap it up. I do expect characters to die. The show can't end without anybody. They're it's up in the air really on what's going to happen. Um, that's the other thing with the films. I think um, if you didn't read the book, um, the deaths that take place in the films, I'm going to say with main characters, you kind of can see coming. So I'll say that much. Um, they're still shocking. It's not like they're not. Um, just the way that they're shot and the way they're done, and when they happen. My final thing on all this, because I know I ramble, I think that that first, like, what, 10 minutes of chapter 1 sets the bar for how chapter 1 and chapter 2 movies are going to go if you haven't seen them. Uh, Same with the season 1 opening, that first episode, the first 10 minutes. It's like same deal. They hit you with it right away, and I love that. And I love the fact that these jump scares are not cheap. They are realistic. They are threats. They are horror. And that's the other thing that modern horror movies have way too much of. Though by the time that, with all these fake jump scares that they throw in these cheap horror movies that are meaningless, in my opinion, by the time you get to the real jump scare, it's kind of like, eh. So I think that modern horror movies can learn a lot from these It movies as far as bringing together not only the antagonist, but the characters around that antagonist and the world around the antagonist. And that's where I'm going to leave this video. Let me know your thoughts and comments below. Give a good thumbs up, like. I do see that I'm getting more and more views with my videos, which is cool to see. I know that my Clone Hero ones are getting a lot of attention. Hey, I love music, you love music, you know. I've split them up, by the way, and this last thing I'll say, into categories, in case you hadn't noticed, just so that, if you want to just, as I'm putting these songs on, you have like a list of 70s and 80s, and then I have like the main Clone Hero list where they're all on there. I might split that up once I get in, because I had close to 400 before songs on here, and if I put them all back, I'll have to split them main Clone Hero playlists kind of apart. But we'll see where when I get there. Anyway, that's all I have to say, and we'll see you.